boy Don Figure, State of the Game, you know what I'm saying? Grown Folks Lounge, we're in the place to be right now. Looking at Bronx Maven Projects. Legendary DJ EMAN, you know what we do. Mad Lab Studios, what we do, y'all. Today, it's going to give you part 2 of our interview with Mr. Edward ROLDAN of the Southeast Bronx Youth Coalition and many other things. And, you know, we're going to dab into a couple of things today, man. But first, Ed, can you just refresh them on who Ed ROLDAN is and what the Southeast Bronx Youth Coalition is?
Well, I'm pretty much a Bronx born and raised native, raised primarily in the SOUNDVIEW section of the Bronx, and from there I pretty much have established over the years of service to the community, serving youth, established the Southeast Bronx Youth Coalition. It was based off of some of the basic principles I learned through Boys Clubs of America. Before there were even Boys and Girls Clubs at that. I have 2 partners there that also are part of us that were also members there. And what we did is took those basic principles and brought them together with our view and spin on it, and we developed the Southeast Bronx Youth Coalition. We're a public advocate for youth, and we serve youth all across the New York City area and also throughout the tri-state area if they're willing to come down.
So, I also have the understanding that you're tied in somehow with the sports industry, to football and Ravens, Bronx Ravens. Tell us a little bit about that and how that, you know, what is all that about?
Well, currently right now I'm the regional director for the New York Giants youth football camps, and I manage 22 locations throughout the tri-state area. And what I do is through Southeast, we participate in the Scores 4 program, and for every volunteer that we provide to help at the camps, we get 4 scholarships. And what we do is we turn those scholarships around and give young men and women in our program to put them in a position to excel, you know, on a bigger forum and get some recognition, but also have a good time and learn and meet people from all over and kind of open up those doors. This past summer we gave away over 16 scholarships, and it was the largest amount that we had gotten and secured. So it's been a real nice experience. You know, starting from the bottom up as a volunteer, an assistant coach, assistant camp director, also a personal trainer, and then come up and become regional director. So it's been a big stepping stone there and helped me out a lot in what I do with youth football, you know, throughout the city and out the tri-state area, and also in the local community, you know, getting kids out and getting the exposure, getting out of a very complex urban environment to be able to excel and get the education and the recreational needs that they may lack in the urban environment that they live in.
That's awesome, man. You know what I'm saying? Because one thing I remember growing up is we had the Boys Club, we had YMCA's, we had our community in the projects, you know, community centers. I mean, I remember back in the days when every project had a pool, you know, you went to the pool in the summer, you had the day camp, you know, and I see today it's just so hard to have programs because, you know, funding, you know, is always an issue, and, you know, so to see you guys doing what you're doing and doing it off of loyal people who support your program, I think that's awesome, you know what I'm saying, because kids need to be able to be kids and growing to be adults, and learning is a really strong part of that, you know what I mean? Like, you know, learning from your ABCs to your abilities to your things that you're good at, like sports maybe, you know, and the kids are being deprived. So what kind of kids do you see coming through? Like, I'm sure it's not all bookworms and geniuses. So from what you've seen, I ain't gonna say what kind of kids, what type of impact do you see that the coalition is having on the youth that you have?
Well, we experience all types of people, obviously, because we don't have a boundary on our demographics. Right. So that's real important there. But you know, when we first started to where we've come, you know, we've dealt a lot with the single parent scenario there, which has been, you know, something that through the hard work of volunteers, you know, in different programs that we've run or been a part of or expose our kids to, you know, have done very well, you know, and very, very important. You know, we deal with a lot of people who sometimes come down to play sports and, you know, need to realize that a coach becomes the coach, becomes the male figure if it's not there, you know, he becomes the counselor, he's the coach, you know, there's a lot of hats that he wears, you know, because of the social needs that are presented to him through his players and the engagement of different individuals, you know, at any given time. So, you know, a lot of times, you know, you're really on the fly also like customizing because, you know, of the role that you play that, you know, naturally, you know, instinctively, you know, the aspect of caring for another human being, you know, kicks in also, and then you make yourself, you know, available and volunteer and you put in and you mentor, and these are different things that we do that create a success. But you know, it's a social issue, you know. You know, the village has to come together, you know, to raise the child, and, and you know, it's really important. And it doesn't matter if your child already came through. You know what? Don't forget where you came from, and give back to it. You know, moves you along and put you in positions to excel, which is also really important. Give back to what gave to you in one form or another. You know. You know, they do it for nothing, but you know what? Just in the same way, you know, create an opportunity as an opportunity was given. That's how we keep it alive for our people, and you know, and be able to move on. You know, if we can't open the door anymore, then we're gonna go ahead and pretty much cut off our source of subsistence. And then at that point, we're in a whole nother dilemma. You know, there.
Exactly. That's you're 100% on everything you just said, and. You know, again, going back to like just remembering growing up, and you know, when I first went to the boys club, Kids Bay, the first day I walked in there, I was like maybe 6 years old, and I was just so amazed of being in this building with all these kids playing and having a good time, and they used to have the foosball and the bumpy pool, and you know, like, you know, we just for those things, it just felt so good to play. But then I remember when they first put the pool in, and then they were doing that, and then they were doing the swimming classes. So it was like, it really was a place for our area of Soundview that kids could go to avoid the streets, because not too far from there, there was streets, you know, like going on around the way, you know what I mean? What do you feel now? What do you see, like, in the sense of the difference from when we were young, coming up through having a place like a boys club or whatever, to where it is now? Do you think that it's youth programs have come to a better place, or how, do we still need to, you know, do what we need to do to make it better? What do you think?
Well, there's a lot of ways I can answer it. I mean, when you lose, I guess it all comes down to programming and how the programming is presented. You know, back in the days, social networking was a big part of it, because social development played a key role in developing people with the resources and the things available to them. You know, wherever they came from demographically, you know, that all plays a role there. When you look at programming today, I look at everything being specialized, it's specialty programming. I came here specifically for dance, I came here specifically for baseball, you know, for the specific program where you develop the skills, but then the social development now is reduced and cut down, and you don't have that interaction, and that later on in life can lead to alienation, and people not being able to communicate clearly and concisely to each other, which is what I'm trying to get to, you know, so that the human touch, you know, which are the other aspects that need to be filled as you develop a person, you know, need to be there also. And I think that's the biggest change there. And then, you know, with the pressure of education, you know, that's something that's constantly being sought after or looked for, the resource, and you know, trying to get to college, and you know, being able to get in and accept it, and where am I going to get the money from? You know, I mean, you know, you look at our government, and you know, one face fights the other. You know, pretty much in decisions that are made, you know, for selfish reasons. You go for there, which that's a trickle-down effect that comes to the programming or the lack of programming. There. Right. Let's not forget it. If we don't get the funding, right, you know, we can't do the programming, or right, the programming gets cut off that's been there. Right, right. So that's real important, the way money is distributed these days, and you know, the political aspect of it shouldn't be political. Right. It's about to be able to build, right, and grow, and that's something that we've done, right, Southeast real well, is that you know, we've been able to do grassroots programs, right, right, and grow the grassroots program into successful local, regional, and national programs that have done successful or have led to young adults and putting youth and empowerment positions and positions to excel that have been very, very successful.
What are some of those programs? Maybe if you want to name a couple of them.
Currently on the educational side, we have a relationship with about 150 universities across the country. Those ties were established in actuality for us through sports. And through the sports, we've gotten introduced to the right people administratively, where we've been able to come in now and have a face of representation and have a better feel for what we're about and what we do. And, you know, we try to help out, and you know, sometimes, you know, we get sponsors to sponsor a real bright person that's seeking an opportunity educationally, and help them take a Kaplan course or ACT course, and get them the funding and pay for it, and then have a mentor assigned to the child, and get them through there. We've been very successful and developed some very good professionals out there. So we maintain that relationship. Also athletically, it opens up doors to get kids out of the city and be able to get abroad the country and experience more to life than just the urban jungle, you know? Like concrete jungle where all you know is buildings and the block and the bodega on the corner. You know what? There's so much in the world to offer that, you know, that sometimes we lose track of that when we only know one thing. And you know, we try to set up trips to universities or whatever and work it out with mentors. But you know, we're always constantly trying to reinvent the wheel to programming, because you know, the social development aspect is so important of it that you have to incorporate it into all the programs. And then you're dealing with issues. Like I say, whatever you take on the issues with it, you know, and that sometimes needs funding, you know, to deal with, or agencies you can network with and refer them in and make sure that you follow them through, and you know, just like internships where we reach out and if somebody's interested and we have that political tie or that contact in those industries, we reach out and ask them, listen, would you like somebody young and ambitious and interested in this, and maybe do an internship, which gives a child a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to learn a skill, to learn how to operate on the inside and contribute to it, to the success of the overall organization, which is immensely incredible, especially the younger that you are. And we do public speaking, and we work with them on public speaking and engage in the public, and the right way to present yourself, shirts, the old-fashioned way, a suit, a shirt, a tie, you know, a pair of shoes. You know, make sure the shoes are shined. You know, make sure you're not tie your knot properly. You know, tuck your shirt in. You know, clean your face. You know, some of the skills that our young people have lost along the way. You know, because of the way society and the different pressures of society. But these are basic things that you know you need to reinforce at an early age. So as we develop into adults, you know, we can present and we can excel, because, you know, it's always a fight for us. It's always a challenge. No matter if you're Hispanic or African American or whatever the case is, you know, we always got to work a little harder, you know?
That's so true, man. That's so true. And I can't, what can I say, man? It's just so true, man. You know what I'm saying? And I have so much love for the youth and wanting to see them have better opportunities that we may have not been able to capitalize on, you know. And when I look today and I see all the great opportunities, and I see a lot of youth excelling, but then I see a lot going under, you know what I'm saying? And with programs like yours that exist, you know, I tend to wonder how come some kids don't connect, but I realize a lot of it is the network, and a lot of it is how people are coming together to present things to youth, and when they see things a certain way, you know, they feel, oh, I don't want to listen to those old people, whatever. I don't want to be playing ball, you know, I'm trying to be out here hustling, you know. But I believe in organizations like the Southeast Bronx Youth Coalition because of all you just said about what you're doing for kids, and I'm glad and I'm grateful that you guys exist, and there should be 1,000 more of y'all around this country, you know what I mean? But you know, hey, we changing it one day at a time, one block at a time. But now I'm gonna change it up a little bit. I'm gonna get into some other realms. We're gonna talk about the Latino experience in America. And what I'd like to know is, as much as you would like to tell, what was your Latino experience in America from young to where you are right now?
Well, you know, the Latin experience for me is, I have a lot of views on it. Being a Puerto Rican studies major in college, when I got there and I started learning about myself, learning who I was and how I originated and what it represented in society and how I was looked upon, you know, by others and the, you know, the majority class and things of that nature, you know, made me go ahead and really have to take a closer look, you know, at my people and where we were at, you know, and you know, we've gone through a lot of changes as a people, you know, from the Dutch to the Spaniard, you know, just going back a little bit, you know, and I can keep even going further back, but just starting from there, the Dutch, the Spaniard, and then the American, you know, in 1898 took over the island. You know, they as a people, not to knock them, you know, I'm American and Puerto Rican, you know, Puerto Rican descent, you know, born and raised in the Bronx. I'm fourth generation. My parents came over from Puerto Rico and my grandparents during the mass migration of the 1950s, which was, you know, something that the United States promoted through programs that they ran to try to control population and other things. You know, another program prior to that is that, you know, kind of violated our people in the sense of the sterilization program that they ran, sterilizing women, you know, and coming out, having people walk up into the mountains and seeking people out and seeking the women out and talking them into, you know, pretty much losing their whole reproductive system, you know, just to go ahead and be able to control the population on the island. You know, things that people don't, that take us back. Let's go back a little bit, you know, and look at that, you know, the Operation Bootstrap program. I mean, there's a lot of things that the American government introduced that affected our people much. But, you know, my parents came over. They originally came into Brooklyn for a very short period. From the Brooklyn, came up into the South Bronx. And then finally, when their dream came true and we were able to buy a home, my grandparents bought a home in the Southeast Bronx. And, you know, I come from an extended family and, you know, it was everybody, you know, hands-on. I have no brothers, no sisters, so the upbringing was real traditional in the Spanish way. And, you know, the great-grandmother, the grandfather, grandmother, the uncle, the mother, myself, you know, and then my other uncles that were all close, and aunts and cousins that, you know, we were real tight-knit, you know, that group there. So, you know, obviously natural causes eliminated them now, and, you know, that's what happens. It's just part of life, you know? But, you know, there's just so many different ways, you know, to come back at it. You know, it's affected us as a people. And, you know, you're talking about moving us from an island, a country setting, into a metropolis, you know, which is now turned out to be one of the biggest urban centers in the world, and the biggest melting pot in the world. So, you know, people look at our background. You know, we have an Afrocentric background too. You know, when the genocide couldn't be committed to the local indigenous population, the Taínos, the Arawaks, the Caciques, and they couldn't be controlled and back out to the middle of the country, you know, and out in the woods, and the African slave was introduced to the island also, and came in, you know, initially, you know, to also help out and, you know, for any shortages or whatever, you know, they were there because the genocide couldn't be committed. So the genocide has a way of returning its way back. Because if you look at that back all the way back then, and then you look at now, even when the United States came in and the programs, population control, again, things of that nature, controlling the masses, colonialization, and things like that. So it's it's a lot more than meets the eye.
Right.
You look at us today also, representation in government. We have a figurehead in the House with no vote or anything else and nowhere else.
Right.
So, you know, you control the country, but you know, we don't have a vote.
Right.
Or, you know, say we have a figurehead.
Right.
Which is sometimes people understand, and that's a big thing behind statehood versus staying the way it is also. Statehood, you gotta get a vote, you know, you gotta get a voice up in there in the different areas. Since they already control the situation, and people feel that, hey, instead of that, you know, then let's have a vote on it, try to have a little more say at least in what's going on that affects us, you know, as a people. So when you get real political about it, that's a real, you know, burning issue out on currently now in the island. It has been for years. But so, you know, so when you look at the island and the transformation that it went from, we'll say from the master to you know, all the way up, because they all have been that in their own way. You know, obviously, anytime you hold it and control it, you know, I can't be me. I can't exercise the freedoms or the freedoms I want to, even though I know we need structure. But you know, the island has come a long way. The impact of the migration between New York and Puerto Rico is so common now. It's almost like getting on the train. Then what happens is that, you know, we come over here, we learn things from here, then we take that back to the island, and now that starts changing the way our people operate. You know, how they live, the lifestyle, introducing other things here that also hurt us, drugs, crime, you know. So there's a cause and effect to everything there. It just depends which aspect you want to look at it, and it'll take care of itself from the multinational corporations all the way on down to, you know, to the hustle and the grind, you know, of day to day.
Wow, that's awesome, man. I like the way you broke it all down, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, I know it's so much more to that, you know, we'll have to do an episode just on that, you know what I mean? But, you know, my biological father is from St. Lucie, and I never met my biological father, so therefore I never met any of that side of my family. So I was never able to embrace being part Latino and embrace my culture of it, learning the language, everything. So I feel that I missed out on a part of my life that I should have been living, that I was never able to live. Of course, it's never too late to embrace it, which I would love to do, you know, go to Puerto Rico and find my father's side of the family, you know.
Trace your roots.
But growing up with, which me and you was like right next door, in the next block from each other, amongst Latinos, blacks, whites, you know, them days in Soundview, in that part where we were at, you had a multicultural setup, and then of course the projects, you know, you had black and Spanish. But I always remember
even whites back there too.
Well, yeah, right. They were actually right. Yeah,
they were out there.
They were over there too. And I just remember our neighborhood being, everybody knew each other, or even if you didn't, if you saw somebody in the neighborhood, you knew they was from the neighborhood. So it was like, hey, what's up? You know, it was like we had, I believe, a connection somehow with everybody because of the time we lived in. You know what I mean? And you know, Vietnam and all that was going on, and to me it just seemed like people were more together, because I can remember being little at night. You could come outside and right to your fence, and the next door neighbor would be there, and they would just end up talking. You know, our next door neighbors were Spanish, so Frankie and Papo, you know, we would kick it. You know, my grandfather would be there, and they'd be kicking it, and you know, I just sit there. I don't know what they're talking about, but I just remember the love, you know, of being able to do that, and then the people across the street will come. So, with that being said, now, today, do you think we've bettered ourselves in the sense of have people really embraced the Latino, or is there still work to be done?
Work is never over. That's just a continual process, an evolution that continues to evolve, and we contribute that on a daily basis. What's funny about SOUNDVIEW is you take it back a little bit. It was almost like a third white, third black, third Hispanic at one point. My next door neighbor was German on one side and Italian on the other side. And directly across from me was Hispanic, and the next person over was African American and West Indian. There also there's another neighbor. Then I had another Italian. It was a very, very mixed group on the block originally. Even before that, the trolley cars used to run all the way to the back, to Classic Point. And you had the beach club back there, and as the beach club transformed, more Jewish population that was back there, and would come in and be shuttled in on New York bus service.
Oh, the short hair,
that's right. And the Castle Hill Beach Club also. They come in on school buses provided by New York bus service. We brought in and out, shuffled in and out the community.
I remember that.
Control one of the most, if you look at it, potential strategic points because of the obvious shore and the ocean being there to be able to get out onto the Sound, out to the Atlantic. And then, that created racial divide for some time. Certain areas, white, Hispanic, black, there's a mix, that also influenced the community for a while, but it evolved, and that was primarily the Hispanic and black, all different types of Hispanic and all different types of blacks, African Americans, Jamaicans, West Indians. There's all kinds. There's different subgroups within the title that's put upon us to classify us. That's what it is. I look at it as a societal classification of race, and then within as we come in as a people, then we have the racial or social stratification that takes place. But it's developed. I mean, now it's very highly populated. So a lot going on. Crime is, there's different approaches to crime and drugs. Community that's being dealt with more, some areas more than others, but there's still good people, within the community that are striving and working hard, and trying to find out where the program's at or get in touch with people. And, we're there. Just got to reach out. We're not real big. We have limited budgets, but it's all worth standing behind you and putting you in a position to excel or empower you. And we're all for that, and we're going to give you everything that we got. Behind it, because we're representing our people. It doesn't matter if you're Hispanic or you're black or whatever. You know what? You come to us. You are people. We're people. We're all the same color. We're all the same team. There is no classification of breaking you down. This is how we roll. If you're with us, you meet the guidelines, you adhere, you contribute, do the things you do, you'll have a tremendous experience. Which is what people are there. And then once again, it comes back to how I got here, how my people thought, the upbringing, the OG roots, as we would say, coming back to that. Chivalry was still in play, which a lot of people now, don't have that, especially young.
Grown folks now is what we do, y'all. Ladies, dirty man, we in the place to be. And I'm sitting here with my man, ROLDAN, SOUNDVIEW in the building. We doing our thing, Grown Folks Lounge, man, just kicking it, man, They dropping a lot of knowledge, so now I want to touch on some things like music. How do you feel about Latin music? What does it mean to you? That's what I meant to ask.
Latin music, what people don't really understand, was really music developed by the slaves, that worked on the haciendas, plantations. And it was a way to bring up spiritual uplifting. Obviously, the slaves that were being mistreated, very long hours, out in the fields, the master, the beat downs, the women, the rape, working at the big house versus working in the field, so it evolved through there, Also, the Afro-Cuban collaboration there, the slave was introduced also, the European to the island.
Right.
So, you know, that influence now was there.
Right.
You know, because eventually it mixed and made contact with the rest of the population.
Right.
You know? So you have to look at the way it's evolved and where it started, where it headed, where it went to, how it evolved from there, and where we're at now. Right now, you know, you have some real good young Hispanic artists, depending what you listen to. Hispanic music has really, really grown in the city because of the melting pot situation. Dominican, Ecuadorian, Mexican, you know, Puerto Rican, you know, everybody got sound.
Right.
So you're hearing it because of all the different groups within our, you know, title of Hispanic there. So it's evolved a lot, you know. Salsa's at a beat, all time, dance classes, lessons, you know. So you know when it's being promoted like that, it's marketed like that, you know it's being successful because it's going mainstream. So you know that plays a role, you know. But technology affects that also, and what's available now, what you can do, things that instruments can do, how you can change the sound, the electronic. I mean, so it all plays a role. So it's evolved. I'd say it's at its all-time high, but you can never take away the classic.
Right.
You know, just like we're hearing in the background. You know, the classics always drive it. You know, when we want to have that climax, you know, and we're partying and we're enjoying, and we're using it to build unity and strength. You know, we go to the classics, the foundation. You know, and that's stronger than ever. There, so you know, it's taking a lot of turns, but you know, it's something that continues to grow and be more and more relevant in the marketplace.
One thing I love about Latin music is I can go to any Latin club, even if it's just a local bar that's playing Latin music, and I'll always see people. I always see people hanging out, kicking it, having a good time. Like, it's just generates love, you know what I'm saying? Like, and they're still doing it in the hood. They're still doing it in the neighborhood. Like, I can go out the building right now down the block and there's a club that's cooking some plantains and whatever, and they got a little dance floor and somebody's on it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, this you know. But, and I love that. I love that about that music is it's so inviting. And I mean, there's a bad side to everything, but it's rare that I hear any bad things about Latin music. So big up, man, to all the Latin artists out there who paved the way and those that are doing their thing right now, you know what I'm saying? Because I love it, you know what I'm saying? So now, let's get into like games. And in your coming up upbringing, what games were around? Like, when did you first start seeing, what were the first ones that you saw?
Gangs have traditionally been part of our culture in America, period. You know, going back to the Jewish gangster, to the Italian gangster, the black gangster, you know, Afro-American gangster, and then blowing up in Harlem and controlling Harlem many years. You know, so now you have the big cartels, which are different Hispanics from across the borders. So, you know, there's a lot of change there. But, you know, when you look at it, it's amazing, you know, the transformation that it brings. That's the only way I can really put it, you know, the transformation and everything that encompasses.
What are some of the first games you saw coming up as a young man? What were some of the games in your neighborhood that you knew?
Growing up, I seen the Black Spades, Savage Nomads, Seven Immortals, Roman King. Man, there's just so many to name. I mean, you know, we can just go on. Imperials, I mean, Savage Goals, you know, wow, there's just so many, but you know, they were there when my mother was growing up.
Right.
Ford and Baldies and things like that, way back in the 50s, you know.
Wow, you took it way back.
You know, so they've always played a key role. I started experiencing them in the early 70s, you know, when I was 10, 11 years old. I was jumped into the Baby Nomads, right behind the old Beach Theater off of Randall Avenue. There were steel doors on Beach Avenue there, and people used to climb those doors and then pop them open. And that's when my jumping, pretty much I was locked up in that little triangle that was in there, and got jumped in, you know, and that's how I became. And yeah, I knew a lot of older guys than me that were either young nomads or savage nomads, you know, spades and everything. Eventually, gangs broke up and led to the formation of organizations. That's one thing. If I have to give anybody big ups on that, there's always Bambaataa, because Bambaataa's always been able to organize and bring the masses together and have the Zulu Nation. You know, it's a lot, much love there. You know what I mean? And it takes a special person to do that. And so his contributions come in many different ways. You know, that's pretty much after that. You know, you had crews. You know, crews are like packed, depending what you was into. You know, running things, running game, on the grind, hustle. You know, athletically, you know, those that were dependent on. But you know, I mean, it's all evolved in different ways. The way the term is used. But the gangs were up in here. Even I would say from mid to late 60s, because the Soundview community, if you're really from Soundview, from way back in the day, the motorcycle gangs were in the community. There were Hells Angels in the community. Down the block from my house, I had the president, I can't remember the name of the gang now, but they were pretty big and rivaled the Hells Angels. The president of that particular MC club lived on my block. So, you know, good friends with the family. So I knew, as the older brother, what he was, you know, into through his younger brothers and sisters, stuff like that. But, you know, people forget that there was motorcycle gangs that were in here already. And because it was such an isolated community down by the water, it was very easy to be down there and stay low-key, you know, out of the public eye, the immediate public to see you. But, you know, when you try to come in and out and doing things, it was a great way to lay low undercover somewhere and not be able to draw the attention that's there. So they have been here, you know, for a long time and seen a lot of brothers go down. Kips Bay was like a crossroad where people used to go to Kips Bay and a boys club. At that point, there was still boys club. And you know, that's how the community boundaries were broken. I'm from Monroe, I'm from Soundview, I'm from Castle Hill, Bronxdale, you know, here, that, and the other. So a lot of times everybody would always have athletes, people that came there to compete and everything as the social center and network, but you know, come in with colors, and, you know, flashing and everything else. And you know, Dale Drakeford, who was the associate executive director, you know, used to step in and take them off, flip them in, you know. So there was a crossway in the community. That was at the boys club, you know. And you can see that. Then, you know, obviously, when you're out in the hood and out around the block, you know, you come across it also, you know. So it's been around a long time. You know, it's affected music and the way we hear music, you know, and the development of hip hop, you know. This came out of jamming in the park, like Disco King Mario, guys like that, you know, and Tex, and, you know, playing out there that, you know, he had the equipment. It wasn't necessarily all hip hop, but he introduced the playing of music to the public, to the masses, and playing disco, different types of disco, things that now would be classified R&B, and things that we take and mix now that become hip hop. So he's never given enough credit, as credit is due. You know, because those are founders and founding forefathers used to bring his equipment out to be able to do what they do and add that enhancement to the music.
Which brings me to, what are some of the guys that were pioneers of hip hop and Soundview that that you were affiliated with?
Man, I grew up with Sundance. You know, I know me and Sundance as we were youngsters. You know, and Master Ice, aka Ice Water. You know, Chuck Freeze, Jazzy 5. You know, some of them there. A lot of cats coming out of Soundview. You know, a lot of them. Kwame, Warlock, and you know, Rockzilla. I mean, you know, you're going way back. You know, you're really digging back now where we can just go on and on. You know, but you know, when you start to look at it and their contributions, and then you know, it started and it spread in different communities, and it was just, you know, Mario in this area would be once again the one who had the best and biggest system to be able to do that, and that's where the attention came and the exposure came. You know. And then from there, bam, got a hold of that and exposed to that, and then that's how the hip hop culture started building. Kool Herc on the opposite side of town. And that's really what it was, you know. Depending on what side of town you're on, you know, those people that you exposed to it. Will say in the hip hop game, well, he was the first because of this, 15, and it happened at 1526 Sedgwick. You know, you look on the other side, man, it happened in Bronxdale, Bronx River. You know, some out Soundview, but. You know, that's, you know, remember Bam built the Zulu Nation right out of the Bronx River Community Center there. So it went from being in the community center to being global. Which that's why I say you got to, once again, big shout out to DJ Africa Bambaataa. That's a major accomplishment in the game. So you know, you got to call him a forefather and give his respect due because of what he took and learned from one person and evolved it. Made it to what it is today, you know, and then you know you got to give big up to Kool Herc on the other side, you know, but that was him doing it across town on the other side and putting his flavor to it, you know, Clark Kent, you know, I mean, all of that, you know, and then you know you got old timers like Red Alert, you know, Jazzy J, I mean it goes on and on and on. You know, I'm glad that I was down with Sundance. A lot of these cats I mentioned Sundance, growing up with Sundance, and I was a youngster. But you know, we balled together, we competed with each other, against each other, and it was just funny how those relationships developed and became what they are today. I want to give a big up to Sweet G from Disco Fever, Junebug, you know, rest in peace, you know. Sweet G was my neighbor. The house was directly behind mine. He used to climb over the fence and sneak over to hang out with his brother and then jump over to the next house next door. My man Robbie Morris, Alfred Morris. Morris's, you know, the Bananas, which are very big and key in the police department these days. But to play basketball and do things, you know. But you know, and it was, you know, the community here was tight knit compared to what it is today. You know, a little more individualized, compartmentalized, and things like that. So, you know, we lost some of that social touch. And gave that up for other things, you know, that have transformed us. But, you know, going back, you know, the argument is there, who was first heard? Bam. You know what? Mario introduced the concept. You guys enhanced the concept and created hip hop out of the concept. And you know, both of you guys on both sides of town and exposing, you know, those communities to that. So you know, it was a come along from both sides. I don't really see it. I see them as co-founding fathers of hip hop. Co-found. That's it. These are the two forefathers of our country. Just like we talk about the presidents. He gives that respect where it's due, and you know, this is where it's at. You know, Bam, Herc. You know, others, Grandmaster Flash, Furious 5, Grand Wizard Theodore, you know, all guys to see it in action and perform and battle each other. When battling was true battling. It was about the creativity and the technology that you can find to get an edge and sound better and get it in and, you know, put a spin to it and right away, you know. So, you know, I've been to a lot of battles that become classic in the hip hop game. There that can talk about friends that recorded them, you know. So the game's come real far. Technology's brought it far. Marketing, mass media, to impact social media. You know, the social networking of it. You know, I mean, we're reaching millions across the globe these days. Before, and we could reach a few hundred or a few thousand. We were large, you know. And now we're talking about we're reaching them around the globe. And I'm from Soundview. Check that out.
Right.
Back in the day,
Right.
when they had the technology
Right.
to touch them all, and people in Japan and China and
Right.
other foreign countries, yo, that's such and such.
Right.
SOUNDVIEw.
You know, it's interesting because when you look at the humble beginnings of hip hop and what it was born out of and what it's become now, it hurts me that it seems like people just don't want to acknowledge that birth stage. And I mean, from what you said, like from that Disco King, Mario, bringing, I remember my aunt lived in Bronxdale, 1720, at the second floor, and I would stay there sometime. My cousin Barry, Tony, and Ricky, and Markel. And Mario and Takes D Hollywood would come out on the blacktop right there. And then Herc would come through with Sarah Vegas, and they just play music, you know, plug it in. They had such and such from the third floor, drop the chord, you know. And like, that was really my real first experiences of seeing music outside. But when I went to church, Soundview Presbyterian Church, Soundview Presbyterian Church, we used to do the youth group dance, and Kwame and Warlock and Nelson Tuwood and Glenn and all used to come and play there, and Ice would come through Sundance, and then every now and then, Bam would drop in. And when Bam came, it was like, it's him. He's the guy, you know. We all, you know, like,
and it's sensational.
you know what I'm saying? But I understood that it was something going on. I was still young. I was only still like 8, 9, you know. But my sister was a little older, and she was able to hang out a little more. And she was in the projects a lot. One of our homegirls was that. So they do house parties at Crystal Adams. I don't know if Crystal Adams used to wear the glasses. Yeah, her brother was Charles. They used to call him Charlie Chu. And
Charlie Patterson.
Right. And they did the parties there, and I would come there, and Master Ice would be in the kitchen with the equipment on this little table, mixing, and somebody's cooking over here, and somebody's making Kool-Aid, and I'm little, you know, I'm with my sister, I'm like, you know, they partying, and that's when, like, right before the Freak and the Spank came out, where everybody was just, you know, dancing and humping and, you know, whatever, and I just was like, wow, you know, and I just grew more and more in it, and, you know, I look today and I just see how, unfortunately, this younger generation is always some kind of violence or something. Not all of them, but a lot, you know, which is sad because, like, you know, we try to do a lot of stuff for the youth, especially music, because everybody wants the music. But then we get turned down, like, no, you can't do that. We don't want, you know, people are so afraid, you know, because they're scared somebody's gonna get shot, stabbed, or whatever. So, what do you think needs to be done? How can we reach the youth to say, look, this is, now you guys got the torch. You gotta let it live another 40, 50 years. But if y'all don't stop the violence within your culture, the music dies with it. What can we do as OGs, or what should we be doing to speak to the youth and try to educate them, help them understand this, so that they can better themselves in their hip hop culture?
You know, it's a multiple step process that has to take place, and the biggest thing is that people don't want to take accountability for their actions on a day-to-day basis. You know, you're responsible for what you do and how it affects everybody around you on a day-to-day basis. So a lot of people are a little sideswiped by that,
Right.
and lose track of that.
Right.
I always say it starts at home.
Right.
Structure of the family, you know, the impact of that structure or non-structure,
Right.
you know,
Right.
what you get exposed to,
Right.
positively, negatively,
Right.
moving forward. You know, it takes a village to raise a child.
Right.
You have to be able to know when your limit of where the help is at, when to pass off
Right.
to the next step,
Right.
to the next agency
Right.
that also plays a role in the social development of a child.
Right.
Which is important because that's going to impact them for the rest of their life.
Right.
Because those are the first impressions made on the brain.
Right.
That's all part of brain development and, you know, get into growth and development and things of that nature. And go from there. You know, moving forward, you know, that's the good thing about Southeast is that, you know, as a public advocate for youth, you know, we put youth in a position to be heard by those that they couldn't approach or they're stereotyped, but we put them in a position to be able to express themselves in a non-violent way and provide the forum and teach them how to go ahead and go about it the right way. The struggle could be done in many ways. We can do it the right way, or the socially acceptable way, positive way, or we can do it negatively. Sometimes negative has a positive, but 9 out of 10 times the negative's a negative. You know, better role models, more structure, you know, taking the responsibility of being a parent and do what you're supposed to do. The apple don't fall far from the tree. And you're the one bearing the apple. So you have to take responsibility and accountability. So more structure there. But you know, since the new child is so affected by technology, that you know, you have to educate and you have to build through technology. You know, continue the development and evolution of music. You know, sports. You know, academics. You know, there's many different facets. And you know, you have to learn how to utilize that in a positive way, so you can stop being looking at times in a negative way. The constant exposure to programs, getting out of the community, understanding that there's more to the neighborhood than just being around the block or at the project or on the corner or wherever it may be. Once you start to travel outside of your environment and you see what's being offered, you become hungry, and now you find your own self-identity and start to relate and develop and go and have structure in your life and try to be successful. And we need more programs that continue to expose the youth to those avenues. Make sure that we track them and follow them all the way through. So because everybody faces adversity. So you know, you have to have that support system for adversity there. And I think the most support systems that are in place and programming programs that can develop minds and develop social skills that you need, because you can be the smartest person in the world, but if you don't have common sense and good social skills, you'll get swallowed up. It's just like if you didn't have it. So, you know, it's a lot of roles there, but, you know, having a public forum and how to present yourself and learning how to do that process so you can become more active, and as you get older, vote, which that affects you once again, and be able to speak for yourself, become a business person, or have a business community where you affect the lives of many around you. You know, programs in that sense, entrepreneurial, you know, technology, since we're evolving so much. I mean, everybody should be encompassed into technology, and everybody, you know, should be something that's standard from the government, given, built, and, you know, set up an infrastructure that promotes that if you're going to go there. You know, don't educate some, leave the rest behind. Because you always leave more behind than you take. So you have to learn how to go ahead and be able to move everybody along. And we wouldn't have the struggles and some of the problems that we have today as mankind. You know, social acceptance, which is so key to the development. So, you know, when we develop programming needs to be more in touch with the basic human necessities of that particular environment that they're serving. Then produce productive programs that can contribute and create social change within the infrastructure that it's in. That's how the community grows. That's how we develop fine minds that become the leaders of tomorrow by building them today. And that's the model of the Southeast Bronx. Building tomorrow's leaders today. And that's our model. So that's why we try to contribute and guide you. But let me tell you, if you're not doing it this way, you don't tell a young person, why don't you try it this way? And see how it works out. When you do it this way, trust me on this one. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but maybe I do. You'll never know if you don't explore that. No stone is untouched. Every stone is turned. And that's the type of mentality that you have to teach the youth today, and build programs like that. Aggressive, assertive, self-esteem, productive, you know? Almost like back in the days, programs equivalent to what junior achievement was. Get the corporations back in, set up those internships, teach them leadership skills, how to manage. how to work with different structures of people and levels. We don't always have to be the subordinate.
Right.
We can always be the authority figures.
Right, too. Right.
Just with the knowledge. You know, programs like that are effective. You know, getting them in touch with educational institutions at a very early age, exposing them to college. I started exposing them at the age of 3 and 4 through my development program, through my football development program, which starts at age 4. And we take them to universities and colleges, and they're meeting players and teams, and seeing the university and the difference of being here. But you know what? It leaves an impact on the brain, which now creates reinforcement and muscle memory retention of the experience. And we develop like that. That's how we develop with the universities that we work with. The social programs that we're tied into and can reach out to for assistance or give referrals, whatever the case is. So it's many, many pieces to the puzzle. And that's the way we structure our programs. Through social change, social needs, social issues, you know, social development. You know, we use athletics to develop that. We use athletics to break racial barriers and learn how to work as a team and look at each other in a non. And we're all the same color. There is no color. I'm just looking at you as a person. You know, and we're working with each other, you know. Sometimes in life you can't make everybody happy and you can't get along. But you know what? It doesn't mean that you can't work together. You know, you can be private and be about your business. And what happens is sometimes our people need to know how to embrace that also. And, you know, and get from out within themselves. And that's why, you know, when we develop programs, they're coming back to us. And that's what we do with young people. And we break that and we introduce them and put them into environments that normally they wouldn't be able to get. And break those barriers and be focused.